If you're an educated woman who is unmarried by the age of 27, people might use a particular term, shangnu, to describe your social status, which simply translates to a leftover woman. A derogatory term no woman wants to be called. The concept of shangnu has sparked conversations on gender roles, societal expectations, and the changing dynamics of relationships in contemporary China. This phenomenon reflects the evolving landscape of women's empowerment and choices in a society undergoing rapid transformation. The reality, however, is that not everyone is ready for this kind of change. So, where did all this start? What does it mean? What problems are these women facing? And what is life like for some of these women in China today? This is the story of the over 7 million leftover women of China. The idea of getting married and having kids at an early age has deep roots in Chinese tradition. In the past, young girls would marry in their teens, while boys often married in their early 20s. This tradition has been kept alive for centuries, but in today's world, more and more people are beginning to challenge it. Shangnu applies to a growing body of women seeking education, economic freedom, and a more unconventional life path than their parents. But despite the progressive movement, the message from society remains unchanged. If you're not married, you're doing something wrong. Shangnu, the derogatory label, was coined by the All China Women's Federation to describe unmarried women of a certain age. The label was even added to China's official lexicon by the Ministry of Education back in 2007. The term has since become a household name, thanks in large part to it being popularized by media propaganda and government initiatives aimed at pressuring women to get married. Shangnu was deliberately invented to curb the rising number of single women in a traditional society, which sometimes views not marrying as a moral transgression, with some even considering it a threat to national security. The irony of it all is that it is men who tend to be left over in Chinese society. Currently, single men in China outnumber single women by more than 30 million. This happened because, in the past, people in China preferred to have male children over female ones, especially during the time when the one-child policy was in place. In China, people have traditionally preferred having boys to carry on the family name and take care of parents when they get older. The one-child policy, which started in 1979 and ended in 2015, limited families to only one child to control the ballooning population growth, and families were fined if they had more than one child. Because of this policy and the preference for male children, more boys were born compared to girls. Now there are more single men in China, but oddly enough, it's the single women who are often looked down upon or stigmatized. China's government wants women to get married for two main reasons. First, to help fix the gender imbalance it created, the problem of more men than women, which happened partly because of their one-child policy. Second, they believe it could help improve the overall quality of the population. Now, the same government that once had the one-child rule is encouraging women to marry young to tackle these issues. The government is focused on marrying off urban, educated women, but it does not want rural, uneducated women to have more children. Their concerns about population quantity have now been replaced with a concern for quality. With women migrating towards big cities in pursuit of their careers, China is seeing a growing number of poor, working men left single, hence the efforts to persuade educated women to build the new generation of skilled workers. Whichever way you look at it, these women are constantly having their decisions made for them, and, even in their pursuit for autonomy, single women still face backlash and continued pressure to marry and start a family. But will these women bow to the will of the government? Throughout history and across cultures, women's bodies have been treated as a communal resource for creating the citizens of the future, and therefore, states try to control women's lives to influence their reproductive capacity. Formerly, that control largely took the form of restricting women's access to education or banning them from certain jobs. But today, it manifests more subtly as social pressure, suggesting that fulfillment comes only from marriage and children. In Chinese culture, respecting your parents is really important, and one way to show respect is by getting married. And, on the flip side, not getting married is seen as something very disrespectful and an insult to the family. Chinese women experience intense pressure from their parents, and even grandparents, to get married and have kids of their own, as they worry about what people will think, their family's reputation, and future lineage. As you can imagine, this puts a lot of emotional stress on these women. The media in China also plays a huge role in perpetuating the stigma. Television programs, movies, and advertisements often depict women in traditional roles, reinforcing the idea that a woman's primary role is in the family, which can stigmatize women who prioritize their education, careers, or personal interests over marriage. The media is always portraying Xiongnu in a negative light, promoting the idea that they are somehow flawed or incomplete without marriage and children. This sort of labeling often perpetuates stereotypes that suggest these women are overly picky, too focused on their careers, or have undesirable qualities. With so many men around, women who are unwilling or unable to find a husband are often regarded with suspicion. Some bosses even discriminate against them, assuming that they are less committed to their work or that they'll leave to start a family eventually. In social situations, these women, known as Xiongnu, the leftover women, feel left out since many gatherings are for couples or families, making them feel lonely or out of place. Overall, many Chinese women feel a lot of pressure as Xiongnu. Even if they are successful, being single makes them feel less valued in society. There's a feeling that, no matter how good or capable they are, in larger Chinese society, they are still not seen as good or equal to men. But what's interesting is that China is not the only country grappling with this problem, and many nations are dealing with a similar tricky situation.
But as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults are single.
As women get more educated and join the workforce, they are getting married later and having fewer children. This is causing some people to worry about fewer babies being born, and sometimes these women are treated unfairly because of these changes. Like I mentioned, it's not just Chinese women facing this issue. In Japan, they have a funny term, Christmas cake, for women over 25 who aren't married. It's a joke that, like Christmas cakes on sale after December 25th are considered unwanted leftovers, these women are also left over. And in India, people sometimes playfully call unmarried women in their 30s or older Auntie G. And, while not as explicitly labeled, Western societies also talk about women marrying later and working more. They use terms like career woman or independent women to discriminate women. But these phrases don't have as much of a negative connotation as Xiongnu does in China. Single Chinese women suffer considerably more potential humiliation than their Western counterparts, especially with the introduction of the marriage markets, where, like an open street market, parents go to advertise their children. This phenomenon was developed originally in Shanghai more than a decade ago and has sprung up in other parts of China. It's within these so-called marriage markets that parents gather to find suitable partners for their unmarried children. The presence of these markets can be emotionally distressing, as it highlights the societal expectation that they should be married. The parents usually chat with each other about the attributes they are looking for in a potential partner for their adult children. If the parents hit it off, they will arrange a blind date and hope for sparks to fly. Parents claim they are just trying to do what's best for their children, but they might not realize that what they want and what their kids want can be very different. More young people now want to decide for themselves about marriage, and even the choice to not marry at all. They might not even talk about this with their families, but they don't want to seem disrespectful. And, even if they want to speak up, not having enough money of their own can hold them back. This makes you wonder if things will ever change for the younger generation. Indeed, portrayals of single women as lonely, desperate, overqualified, and intimidating appear regularly in Chinese media and news outlets, and research has shown that the Shengnu stigma has pressurized many women into marriage. And, as sad as this is, there are others who have made the conscious decision to speak up and fight back, which, in communist China, is not an easy undertaking. Despite protesting becoming more common in modern-day China and Hong Kong, it still can get people into big trouble, even landing them in jail. For Shengnu women, who are often looked down upon, getting involved in social activism could harm their jobs or get them into legal trouble. So, they found different ways to show that their way of life is okay too, without facing such serious risks. Research reveals that single professional Chinese women are changing how others see them, not through protest or activism, but through economic power. They are using consumerism to counteract the long-standing stigma over their single status. Through conspicuous consumption, they promote themselves as morally upright, economically independent, and successful citizens. The 7 million single women aged between 25 and 34 in urban China are, in fact, among the largest contributors to the country's growth. Women now contribute some 41% to China's GDP, the largest proportion of any country in the world. Of course, not all single women in China can afford to demonstrate this kind of spending power, but for those who can, a new sense of economic liberty helps to define themselves and their place in Chinese society. The chance to spend money on themselves and on gifts for their parents helps to positively redefine their single status as something to be proud of. Their struggle pits the modernizing and global power of the contemporary market against the traditional cultural authority and media power of China's modern party state. And, in a surprising turn of events, it looks like the single women are winning. Single Chinese women are at a real turning point, and many are beginning to embrace a single lifestyle and push back the stigma. Marriage in China is extremely patriarchal, and women need to see that being single is something to be celebrated, not to be ashamed of. But can the single women of China see real happy endings where society will truly accept their choices? At the moment, that's still unclear, but many believe that this trend of women choosing to be single and independent is going to continue. And it is just the beginning.